culture, we want to grow, this is fun, we're having fun, we're creative, and how do you work with that? And then still, somewhere on the line, you need to organize yourself to be able to grow even more, to make that management level that you don't want to have when you're a startup. I know this for a fact. You don't want to have it, and at the same time, you can't grow anymore if you don't do it. So how did that, was that in place when you came around?
It was at TAT, the pains from not having the structure were there already at that point, which is, and they come pretty early. But first of all, I'd like to say that, I mean, culture, whether you like it or not, any group, it has a culture. You can use it or not, but it's there. You have it. It could be a not very useful and not very good culture, but you have one. So therefore, that's the reason why you kind of need to have an idea of how can we foster, how can we develop, how can we encourage a culture that is useful. And I completely agree with Staffan about the kickoffs and things. I mean, there are so many things you can destroy the ambiance surrounding culture, where it becomes something that you shove down the throat of people, and that's obviously not a good way to do it. But still, it keeps happening over and over again. But anyway, that's provided that you do it in a good way. Culture is an asset, but also very, very natural that it has to come from beneath. You cannot come from above. You have to build that from beneath. You have to build on what is there.
The values that are already in there.
The people. I mean, if you have a group of 5 people, you have to discuss. So how do we want to work? What do we like to do? How do we like to do it? How do we want to be perceived? How do we want to treat each other? And to do that on a real individual basis, and then build it up. And if you're 50 people instead, you have to create and find ways of capturing what is actually happening there. You can't tell 50 people, this is how we want you to do things. It doesn't work. If you want to change a culture, it needs to start with a wish from, in my mind at least, taking aside the large companies because I don't understand how they work anyway. But in a reasonably manageable, in a couple of hundred people or maybe 1,000 people, there you can capture what comes from
the floor, from the ground.
And if there are, so to say, bad or not useful parts of the culture, unless you get people to agree that this is not a good way of working. We can define that we work in this way and this happen, and it's not good, let's change it. It has to come from that. In my mind, I have no other idea of how to do it. I don't know.
So it's kind of chaotic, and it should be. Lots of things going on at the same time. And then sooner or later you need to have some structure, perhaps, even if it hurts. And you have a thought there about that.
From hard experience and painful experience, you realize I'm not a very structured person myself. That's one start. So that's where I start. But I see in front of me a line where at one end you have very structured people, bureaucrats, you can call them if they're kind of at the far end of it, and then on the other part you have creative people, borderline chaotic people. So these are opposites. And among all of you, well, since there's a lot of entrepreneurs here, probably overweight into the slightly chaotic people. But anyway, in any group there is a mix of those two extremes and everything along the line. And as you say, I mean, in the beginning of the creation, it is chaotic. Although you may be you have, of course, some of the business process or some of the development has to be extremely not chaotic, but very, very structured. But still, the actual building of the company, it is chaotic. And as you say, you have to move towards more and more structure. And the important realization is to understand and accept that any step towards structure is a step away from creativity. It is, inevitably. But also, on the other hand, to realize that You can't, if things are too chaotic, you repeat things, you do things unnecessarily, you work, etc. So it becomes inefficient and chaotic, and you don't know what you're doing, and you lose things. So there is a bad part of that as well. So you have to balance and realize and question, I think. You need to question every step that goes towards more bureaucracy. And sometimes you end up saying, yes, we need to, we absolutely have to. But many times, nah, we don't necessarily have to. And to keep that balance, the hard thing, though, in that balance, is that those structured people, they have logic on their side. And logic says, isn't it good if we have a checklist so that this is always done in an orderly manner? Wouldn't it be great if everyone knew exactly what we were going to say and we said that all the time in the same way? Shouldn't we? Right. It's difficult to say no to that question, isn't it? Because it would be great, yeah. But if we do realize that every step we take also takes away some way from creativity, so if it's not necessary, then you shouldn't.
And
so
how
do you know that you're doing the right thing? Yeah. How do you know that you're striking the balance? And that striking that balance is, in a growing company, is one of the most important tasks of a CEO. As simple as it sounds, as difficult as it is. But it is very hard to strike that balance. And to strike that balance, you will never be able to go ask your employees, are we on the right balance? No. No one will ever say we're on the right balance. There's no way. But you have to do some measurements. Maybe not physically, but then you need to look at, if I have as many structured people coming to my office complaining that this is a chaos, I cannot work here, we're so inefficient. If as many of those as you have of creative people coming, I'm suffocating, I cannot work with all this bureaucracy. If you have equal numbers, bingo, you're right.
There you have it. That's the recipe.
But don't expect anyone to thank you and say you're in the right balance. No. But do tell the group that you're managing that you're aware of, hey, I know that some of you are very structured, some of you are not. You will never agree. Don't even try. But this is my philosophy. That helps a lot.
Of course, it's finding the right people. Recruiting could be one.
I'm a product man. From Tetra Pak, from AstraZeneca, and then ClickTech. I work with products, and the products will if people believe in the product and they can see that this will last, they would like to come and work with that product. So we have the product in the center of the company. And you can follow it, new versions, more customers, more money getting in, and the company is sort of organically growing. And when you get that machinery working, I don't think that growth is such a problem actually, because you always have a purpose. You know why you are there, and you sort of organizing around this product and all the support that product needs. But when you get that feeling, it solves a lot of problem with motivating people, because you don't have to motivate them. The product is motivating people.
And the customers.
And that you're in a sort of very ethical company. Yes. You're doing something that is good, and that everybody understands is good. And because of that, many problems, I think, just sort of disappear. But of course, we went to all those fairs, like CeBIT, and if you go to Germany, everybody told us you have to be there 3 years before they see you. That's true. First year, the Germans just say, okay, no, I'm not going to go there. Oh, they're still around, maybe they're interested. And the third year, they actually will go in and see you. And
so 3 years at the CeBIT.
3 years, everybody told us that. If you go to CeBIT, if you go to the German market, you have to show presence. Year after year after year. So we went there very early, although we didn't have such a good product at the time, but we were there. And then after third or fourth year, suddenly we could start selling in Germany. So marketing, as I saw it, was also, it had to be sustainable. coming back, starting. I always start to sell things long before it's ready, because I know that there's a one or 2 year span before you get the first serious customers. You know this ordinary curve about laggers and early adopters and everything, and even to get, you can get the champions, which we did.
You had good references.
Yeah, we had good references because we had Astra, for example. I came from Astra, but actually it was very hard to sell back to Astra because I came from Astra. So that was not really a good thing, basically. But I knew their problem extremely well, so that made it easier to motivate. And we also sold to Ericsson here, and others we sold to Tetra Pak, and also so we took the big companies that we had.
But relationship selling was more relationship selling and exhibition. What was your strategy?
Yeah. When asking what are the most difficult things in growth, to find the customers, get in front of the customers, to have a message that the customers understand and appreciate is extremely difficult. It is something that most companies in the early phases are not as good at as they ought to be. And a big part of that is really to be that it is a bit scary. Customers are very scary. To make a sales call, someone can turn you down. And we're all human beings. It is not nice to be turned down, and if you risk being turned down, which is inevitable in a sales call, you kind of avoid it. So if I make my product a little bit better, maybe then the risk of being turned down gets a little bit smaller, and that's very nice. So I'll spend my day making my product a little bit better instead of selling it or marketing it. That is, it's so human. It's not stupid. It's not unintelligent. It's just very human, and we have to stop ourselves from doing that.
Yeah, and as you said, sell the product before it's ready. Get out there.
Meet customers. Have them butcher your product. Realize that it's not me they're butchering, it's my product, and I can make it better, and I can react and respond to that, because now I understand better what the customer wants. Would we have, did I manage, or did we, me and the colleagues, manage to make TAT a great company without the contribution of the founders? No way. They were super critical, and absolutely, I would not have wanted them not to be there. To me, a company where the founders have left is often soulless. Sometimes founders, you can have a succession where you have old-time employees that were not founders, but that kind of take on, and I'm sure you know what I mean, that they take on the same passion and the same ownership, and they're foster mothers and foster fathers or whatever you like, and they can step into the shoes of founders. But unless that happens, it's very boring. To me, it's without a soul.
Having a product, the product will take over. I, as an inventor or anything like that, or a founder, I'm replaced by the product.
So, and you have no problem with that?
No, on the contrary.
That's
that was the way
I
said. I'm very proud of having constructed and created the product.
Yeah.
But after that product is strong enough to have its own life, although I haven't been there for 10 or 15 years, and it could even survive, a lot of people, as I said, surviving venture capital, and then surviving other people coming in, and then surviving an IPO, and being on the market for 10 years. That just shows that it was a very good idea to start with, and that it can live without me and without others. Yeah. And for me, that's what's important, because that's how the company can grow and create jobs and create a nice society here where we are in the southern part of Sweden. We need those kind of things that sort of sell. They don't sell by themselves. No. They have to be sold and marketed, of course, all the time. But they are not depending on any specific person. No. Which I think is a strength.
So these are actually prizes that you can win, which is really cool. And why on earth would you like to do that? And so, what do you want with that? What do you hope to understand when meeting new entrepreneurs going into the scale-up journey?
Well, basically, I'm always trying to help companies in this region to grow and create more jobs and being good to society, and having my experience from a lot of different areas here, from university to the big companies around, although Astra's not around anymore, not here at least, and working with startups and so on. For me, that's I've been talking to people and helping people out in the last 20 years. So for me, if you ask me, that was no problem. So I'm more looking for things that are good, and if things are good, then you can start a company around it. And I know that it takes a long time. I said it took 17 years to go to the NASDAQ with ClickTech, and then although we sold the first thing after a year, very small scale, and what I'm working with now, like Capiche and others, Spalakach, I mean, those are also things that will have taken 10, 15 years, and we are getting there. Because I think if you have that time span in view, and if it's a good idea, then you can really build a company that can become a major company around here. I don't. If you have a real good idea with a clear product, then I'd be interested to help out.
I ask a lot of questions, and these kind of mentor situations, that's a perfect setting where you can ask a lot of questions and find out how people think and why they think in this way, and just to understand the minds of people creating companies. It is interesting for me. I mean, if I can help, I'm happy. But I very much enjoy to see that drive, as much as I can then also think, Jesus, this is so crazy. Where do they get the energy and the stamina? It's like, God, I've been drop dead tired, but I see it happening. It's like, wow, it's so impressive.
And I bet since you've been in so many boards, you have a lot to teach to young or up and coming entrepreneurs.
I hope so. I've seen some of the backsides of entrepreneurship. I've seen them very close. I had to clean them up. And I've been around the messes, and I see both sides of it, and I really
we really appreciate it anyway. And the winners of this mentorship program competition will be announced at the party that we hold on the 28th of September. I hope that you all are joining us.